order at 7:01. And since we are hybrid, as I've been reminded, and I'm sure I will ask you to remind me to do things if I fail to do them, that we have to take roll call votes for all of our actions. Paul, just present, I guess, right?
Say that again?
And I can't hear. That's the other thing. Sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Just doing attendance.
Doing attendance.
Oh,
sorry.
here, thank you.
Mr. Polar.
Here. Wood here.
Mr. Ken.
Hi, here.
Colleen.
And Colleen here.
Jack.
Jack here.
Kristen.
Kristen here.
And I think Sandy is the only person not here. Yes, so Sandy is the only one out. So, Candy, if you want to have a seat, and if you want to pass around, Candy brought some of
Samples.
the documents
Yes.
that she has had conserved and preserved using CPA funds.
We get to take these home?
No.
This is
You can
awesome.
come visit and see them whenever you want.
Okay.
Welcome.
Well, thank you. So I'm not sure where you want me to start, just kind of start talking and then stop me when you need
I
to.
would say the main thing is, if you have a list of whatever you just completed, and then if you have a list of things that you think you might be doing in the next 6 to 9 to 12 months, because we did extend the sunset, so you have your money to do the additional work as it comes along.
Yes. So I want to say back in 2022, we had a letter from the Historic District to start working on more of the archives that we had in the vault, and it was a longer list. So these are two of the books that came back relatively recently from Green Dragon. So we had a list of like marriage intentions, selectmen minutes, town business, which I think were town meeting minutes, annual reports, poll locations, stenographer transactions, poll tax, and a couple of those. So those were the archives that we were working on, that from 2022 list that was about, I believe, 13,000, I want to say, that we ended up coming up with a number. So they do have another batch of documents that they are working on for us right now. So we're pretty close to that list that we had being done. But with our office obviously being where we store all the records, there's going to be ongoing records that year after year we'll have to continue doing this for. Like our street list, our annual reports, vital records. We have business certificates that we've bounded up with since the get-go to select board records. So there will be times where I'll come in, and I guess from your point of view, I wonder if we do that yearly or if I wait till I have like a batch and then, that way they can work on it. I don't know what's best with you, like how you want to handle that as a group.
You work them up as you prioritize them, and then you can just, after the fact, report to us what you've done.
Well, these are for ongoing ones that we have. I guess I want to know now that we're reaching the end of the list that we have for ongoing, if I should wait and get them, like, do them every, year, or what the best way of doing that, and now that we have a bulk of everything that we had to do done.
I would think in terms of, the size of the books that it's going to create, you don't want a book this thick, but you don't want a book that thick either. So that if in 2 years' time, you're going to get 2 inches worth of selectmen's minutes, or 1 year it's especially busy, use your own judgment, but, I would say 1 to 2 inch volume, thick volumes,
We'll
so
play
that
it
they're
from there.
manageable for you.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we'll do that. But yeah, that's where we are currently. So the this last batch that we asked for money for was I think the biggest batch of what we had left to do since Maureen started this back in her time. Now I think it's just going to be maintaining the records that we have going forward, and anything that thank you. Anything that we do have that has been handled that may eventually need to be redone, then we would obviously, figure that out as we go. But I think we're at the point where we're gonna be just doing records as they need.
A question about the records that you have bound. What do they look like before they're bound? Are they just in a file folder, or file folders?
Yep, sometimes they're just paper, or we put them in folders, that way we have them for safekeeping, yeah.
So these aren't any, I think that's probably all been done. Any of the older records that needed to be rebound, that's been done. So these are all new bindings.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
You have a question. As we're going through the archival process, is there any digital version of these being made?
So there isn't, but the funny thing is I was told we can't do digitizing, but I was talking to a couple clerks at a conference.
Recording in
I
progress.
forget which town it was. I have her contact information, but she said she actually was able to go through CPC and is on their board in her town and was able to digitize. So I'm gonna look into that. That is going to be a pretty hefty number, I will say that, to do digitizing of the records. But in the long run, that would mean that there's less handling. They're made electronically, and people can view them at any time, which would be more ideal than having people.
I missed the first part of the
Yeah.
answer, but I know CPA, we can't use, which
Can't.
is unfortunate.
She,
CPA
she's
funds. I
part of
did-
it, and she said she did. So that's why I'm going to reach
A
out
lot
to
of
her
towns
more.
don't necessarily realize all of the rules and regulations and may inappropriately fund things from time to time. It does happen. There is an ability to get help through the Boston Public
Yeah.
Library
Yes.
for digitizing.
And I think the Mass State Archives might also have a program, and the Institute of Museum and Library Studies as programs as well. And that's something Colleen and I talked to earlier, that we need to, as a body, have a master list of all these other resources, because we're not the last resource, we're just the first. And there are a lot of other grant funding opportunities out there that aren't necessarily terribly competitive.
Right.
Especially from the state, because the state wants these records accessible to people. It's unfortunate that, for whatever reason, and again, that could be a new update for CPA on the next time around, that they say, yeah, this makes sense. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, but for whatever reason, in the law, they did not include that.
Right. So I figured I'd reach out to her, find out what she had, shared it with you, and see what we can do, because I said, oh, we've already discussed that, and I was told no. So I think it's worth at least seeing if what she did, and then maybe figuring out if it's
Because-
a no.
Another thing
Yes.
is, it's a lot easier to batch scan these documents before they're in a bound volume than after, because then you really are manually having to.
Absolutely, yep. So, yeah, that's, I think ideally the goal is to have those so they're more electronic and digitized and, less handling going forward, so.
I do think that is where a lot of towns are going. I was at
Yep.
Hopkinton's town meeting and they were voting on that. I can't remember their funding source, but you're right, it's pretty expensive, but it's definitely valuable because you can
Right.
never tell if something's gonna flood or
Right.
books break down and what have you.
Absolutely. So that will be, I guess, table that and in the future, work on that too, after this year, of course. So let's get through September and November.
All right.
But that's all I got, unless you
Any
have
other
any other
questions?
questions.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for
Thank you.
coming, thank you for
Awesome.
sharing.
Thank
Make
you.
sure you get both your books.
Yes.
We appreciate it.
Thank you, thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Okay. So I think probably the next thing we should do is the reorganization of the committee, and then we'll jump back into the project applications. So we have 4 officers, chairman, vice chairman, clerk, and treasurer. So do I have any nominations for any of those 4 offices?
I'll nominate Colleen for clerk, for chair, if she would take it.
I have a nomination for Colleen for chairman.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for Colleen for chair.
Was that a motion or just a nomination?
It was a nomination,
Who-
formally.
You moved.
I said I will nominate her for
Okay,
chair.
okay.
I'll nominate John Stevens for chair.
So I have
Second that.
a motion and a second.
Second.
So we have 2 people. Any other nominations for chairman? Okay, so all those for Colleen? 1, 2, 3. Okay, all those for John? 1, 2, 3.
Here.
4. So
She said.
did you vote for John or Colleen?
John.
Okay, so 4-3,
Next time.
because I don't think everyone wants us to
Can I
tie.
nominate myself for vice chair, though? Because I want to learn how to do
Yeah.
all the behind-the-scenes work that John does.
I'll,
Okay, so I'll continue as chairman. For vice chairman, do I have not?
I'd like to nominate Colleen as vice chair.
second.
Okay. Any other nominations? I keep seeing your hand up. No. It's not going up, and I just see that hand. It's like. No other nominations. All those in favor of Colleen?
Aye.
I,
1, 2,
Aye.
7. Okay, how about for clerk? Colleen was our clerk, so we now no longer have a clerk. Do I have any nominations for clerk?
for this committee, it's really simple, since we have staff to do minutes, so I don't mind doing clerk for here if no one else is stepping up.
I nominate Justin Wood.
Second.
I have a nomination for Justin for clerk. Any other nominations? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I should be doing roll call. Sorry. Paul,
Scarlett, aye.
Craig,
Aye.
Justin,
Justin, I.
Aye.
and Kristen.
Aye.
So should I go back and do the others?
I think we're going to be okay, but going forward.
That was your job.
I know, and I thought you were going to handle it. The motions have been kind of goofy right now, so I wasn't sure what we were doing here.
Yes, okay, so treasurer. Ken is our current treasurer. Do I have a nomination
A
for treasurer?
motion to nominate Ken.
I have a motion for Ken as treasurer,
I'll take the,
and a second. All those in favor? Paul,
Aye.
Craig,
Aye.
Justin,
Aye.
Ken,
Aye.
Colleen,
Aye.
Jack,
Aye.
Kristen.
Aye.
Declare the motion carried,
Well, it teach me
7-0. Okay, got that past us. So now we're gonna go on to project applications. Do we have the Hassanet Woods Bridges group here? You wanna step forward?
Good evening. I'm Ben Neely, Chair of the Trails Committee, and I'm accompanied by my colleague and Vice Chair of the committee, Dan Helms.
Nice to meet you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Just briefly to explain, there's a couple of spots on the Hassanemet Trail that are perennially muddy. And that's exacerbated by horses and bicycles going through, and even hikers who try to alleviate that by putting logs across the streams, which really just blocks it up and makes it even worse. So we believe a proper solution would be to build bridges, boardwalks over those two areas. We've discussed this with the Conservation Committee. They've given us their approval, but they say that the bridges, for purposes I just mentioned, need to be sturdy enough to support horses and riders. So we've also liaised with the Bay State Trail Riders Association to get some construction designs that would be sufficient to support horses and riders. We have a budget for those designs, and we're seeking approval of some funds so we can start construction. We've engaged, we currently have a Boy Scout who has taken on one of the bridges, the shorter bridge near Station 11, as his Eagle Scout project. And he's seeking, at the moment he's talking to Koopmans to see if Koopmans will donate some materials or provide a discount on their costs, which through experience we've known they've done in the past. So we're seeking seeking funding of $10,123, which is a percentage of the total cost of $16,187. The remainder would be the discounts from Koopmans and the labor from the Boy Scouts.
And this is just for that one, the first bridge?
No, this is for both
It's for-
bridges.
for
The
both.
one bridge we plan to have constructed before the end of this year, by the fall. The second bridge, unfortunately, we can't find another Eagle Scout that's ready to do it today, but they assure us that they'll have some next year. So we're planning the second bridge for next year.
Okay.
What are the dimensions of the bridge?
5 feet by, the first one is, they're 12-foot lengths. The first bridge is a shorter one, it's 5 feet by 12 feet. The second one is much longer because it expands a much broader muddy area. It's going to be 5 feet by 40-something feet, 43, 44 feet.
Okay. Question?
We're hoping that the experience we gain on the first shorter bridge will help us with constructing a larger bridge next year.
So, a few questions from me. First off, the contribution that you cited, 6,000, that includes Koopmans, but they have not committed to donating anything yet, correct?
No, the scout is, Jackson Margworth is discussing that with Koopmans now.
If they do not donate the lumber, do we know, is it that full 6,000 that would be what we expect to come out of Koopmans, or is that?
Oh, no, there's $2,700 that we estimate to be the labor contribution by the Boy Scouts.
Okay. So my first piece of recommendation would be to have the request include the money that you don't have a guarantee of recoupments right now.
No,
So
we do not.
that would be to add that into the request from the CPA, would be my recommendation. Because you still have to use the external sources first, so if Koopmans does offer that,
Yes?
you would have that, and just have extra money that you have on the side, and then if you don't use it, you return it back to CPA anyway.
Of course, all right.
The second thought I'm having is you say 10% material contingency. With the way construction costs and everything have been going lately, I would
Yes.
I would personally recommend like a 20% contingency, just at least.
All right, all right.
So that would, be a revised, ask of the committee, but that, again, if you don't use it, it comes back to us anyway.
Right,
And that's why you're here tonight, so that you can
adjust it.
adjust your application. So it sounds like what I was going to also recommend, add a 20% contingency so that in case there, again, materials have gone up
Okay.
extremely high. So if you need it, it's there. If you don't need it, it just goes back to CPC. Safe.
Actually, it never leaves.
Right, well, right, it doesn't get spent.
It's a good point.
And the same thing is if you have, $3,000 budgeted for a discount from Koopmans, which I know in the past, they really have been very generous, so
Yes.
that's very likely that you'll get that, but you don't want to come up short $3,000 and then have to go fundraise because you're in between CPC cycles and you don't have an opportunity to go back and get the money, and then you have to wait, and then it costs more, so
Yes.
it's better to have it, a bird in the hand when you start.
Thank you.
So for the August meeting, and you'll get an invitation to attend that as well,
All
to
right.
just rework your budget
With adjusted figures?
with the adjusted figures.
All right.
Yeah.
My
I'm
only,
going to add to some of those adjustments too.
Okay.
Are you all set, Justin?
Yes.
I had one more thing, but you can talk about the money first,
Okay.
then come back to me.
All right. So the total project cost, you're including the discount and the labor, but the labor isn't really a cost, right? The Boy Scouts aren't going to turn around and hand you a bill.
It is a cost.
But it can be, captured on the in-kind under here,
Yeah,
right?
It's an in-kind, yep.
Right, so it's
Yes.
not like it's,
It's in kind, yes.
yeah, you're never gonna have to come up with that money, is what I'm getting at. So when you're reworking this budget, you're gonna wanna capture that just in a different spot, as well as the discount, right? The discount isn't necessarily something that you're gonna add to the project cost, which is what you did. So the total project cost is really about $10,000,
Yep.
right?
Roughly.
If we're gonna go to 20%,
Excluding
it's.
these, yeah.
Right, so, but it's not 16, and the sole funding source pretty much is CPA, excluding the contributions of a discount and the in-kind volunteer service, which is great contributions. I was wondering, did you go to anybody else, like the Grafton Land Trust, to try to get any additional contributions?
We've been working with the Grafton Land Trust, but we've not requested any funding from them yet.
Can I ask why?
Well,
We have the chairman, the president, sitting in the back of the room.
Well, I mean, while you're going back and reworking numbers, it's definitely a good idea to maybe see if you can get as much help in case Koopmans falls through, and,
well, excuse me, okay, I follow. For one thing, the property is owned by the town.
correct.
It's not a Grafton Land Trust property.
Correct.
That's probably why I didn't consider it at the time, but if it's appropriate, for Grafton Land Trust to contribute funding to town-owned land that's maintained by the Conservation Commission, I can certainly do that.
So I know the Grafton Land Trust has property right in that area,
Yeah.
so they might be
do.
incentivized to help on a project that'll connect to their property. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, I'm just saying it's
Right.
worth the ask.
Okay,
Yeah,
fair enough.
okay.
All right.
I have one more question, but I cut Justin off, so I'll come back.
No, go ahead,
Go ahead,
and
Colin.
then we'll let,
So since this is an Eagle Scout project, I was curious why they're not getting any, like, aren't part of the applicant's name here. I know the Trails Committee, it was discussed at length that they wouldn't be doing maintenance and things like that, so I was surprised to see the Trails Committee coming forward and trying to request money. I love the project, I think it's a great project, I just wasn't sure why Jackson wasn't the applicant,
Oh,
or mentioned as part of the applicant.
all right. I think we noted in here that the Boy Scouts are doing it, but you're right, we didn't include his name in here. Quite frankly, this project extends beyond to prior to the formation of the Trails Committee.
It does,
Yeah.
I was looking at the dates, yeah.
Yeah,
The Concom was all approved before Trails ever started meeting.
That's
Yeah.
right, yeah. So, just throwing that in. I can amend this to include Jackson as one of the applicants?
I think that would be
I
appropriate.
would put his
and-
name in the narrative. I don't think he's the applicant. I
Yeah.
don't think he's gonna be you would be the contact person.
Yes, I hope
Not Jackson.
Right.
So, and I don't know that he's of legal age to contract, so I think that's also probably an issue.
Yeah, okay, all right, yes, that's certainly true, okay. All right, I'll certainly include him
Right,
in the application.
because I mean, he's gonna run the project, but under the supervision of your committee.
That's right, yes, yes, okay, I can amend it like that.
Great. Back to Justin.
Yeah, my only question was in regards to expectations of maintenance of the boardwalk. I know there was a project that I was involved with on the planning board a few years back now, that there was a trail right next to it that there was a talk of potentially doing a boardwalk for, wet trail there.
Yes.
But that got revised and decided against because of the maintenance costs of handling the boardwalk over time. And I don't know if that is something that's been considered. CPA can't fund maintenance, so that's the base point on there. But it's just a consideration to have when you're doing this type of work.
All right, yeah, I believe that these are gonna be, the boardwalks are gonna be constructed of material that should last quite a while, but, several years from now, it probably will require some sort of maintenance.
Okay.
So I'll have to consider how we include that in here.
Yeah, like I said, we can't fund any part of the maintenance in the first place, so
Right.
it's not necessary to, in my mind, to have it as part of this narrative or
That was my
description.
understanding, yeah.
But it's still something that I think is worth thinking about, because it would be a shame to fund this now, and then 5 years from now, it's dilapidating, and we can't fund anything toward maintenance.
Right.
And then, you have a worse off problem because of it
Okay.
falling apart.
All right, thank you.
Because you're an official town committee, do you know, is there a town policy for your committee or for maintenance on these kind of things that Rob might know, you might know?
So their charge was to not even maintain the trails, like it was spoken at length to not do stuff like this. But the Conservation Committee might have, but I don't want to speak for them.
Because it's like, we're putting a whole lot on the people that are trying to fix a problem, whereas we don't have anybody that's charged with maintenance of our building. It's like we have how many buildings in town, and there's not somebody that's their job is to go around and make sure every roof is, and every door and every window, and, so it's like, I would like to see this built, and I understand it, maintenance is important,
Yes.
but if that's not even part of your charge or part of the policies of town committees,
In general, we had a discussion about that, about general trail maintenance at our last meeting. And we've determined that we'll work in conjunction with the Grafton Land Trust to maintain all trails, the conditions of all trails, which I believe would include this as well. So we'd work with Grafton Land Trust to make sure everything is serviceable.
because that's something that should be in an annual budget, that you would have some kind of a maintenance budget if you're gonna put stain or cuprinol or whatever it is you put on it to preserve the wood over time, that should be part of an annual allocation from the town. And then you have your volunteers to
Fair
do
enough.
that.
I'm not sure, I agree with you, I'm not sure where from the town the funding would
You talked to Evan Broussard, the town administrator, and it may be unclassified, they've kind of changed the budget up a little bit, but that if you're, whether you have a line item or not, I don't know, but if you don't, to ask to get a line item and have a line item for maintenance, and then explain to him, these are the things that we know every year we need to do, and this is what we think it's gonna be, and he'll say, okay, we think we can do this. So at least every year, you've got $2,000 to go and
Okay.
go repair rotten wood here. or-
John, that's great advice, but it's outside their scope of their charge to even be asking for that, is what I was getting at. And we gotta
As
make
a-
sure that
As a citizen of
conservation.
the town, I think he could ask that, or a member of that committee. I don't know why, as a member of the committee, you can't say it may be outside of our charge to do maintenance, but we feel like this is important.
Right,
and-
but you wanna make sure like conservation isn't already doing that, we're not doubling up efforts and doubling up.
That's what I'm saying,
funding.
I don't know.
I can ask him for his opinion, if there is any item currently in the budget that would accommodate that.
Right, I mean, that's a harmless question.
Sure. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions?
I have one comment.
Yep.
If you're looking for a third project, how about a bridge across the Misco Brook at the inlet to Silver Lake?
Oh,
It's in the Silver Lake Conservation Area.
yes,
It really needs a bridge over that stream.
all right.
It flows quite vigorously
Yeah,
much of the
yeah,
time.
It would, okay.
And the beavers dammed up the inlet to it so that the old crossings are all flooded.
All right. We'll take that under advisement.
But that's a
in the
good
next
one.
Trail committee meeting. Yeah.
You've
Thanks,
got-
Ken.
We'll give you lots of jobs, so be careful.
Do you want us to review all the things, or?
Well, we'll get to that.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, thank you very much.
All right, and I'll see you in August?
We'll see you, I think it's the 26th,
Is that the date?
let me look, I can't remember from the beginning of the day.
Somewhere around there.
1, 2, 3, 22nd,
22nd?
22nd.
Okay. 8/22. All right,
But we'll send you another email to remind you.
thank you. Sure. Thank you all.
Thank you.
And whenever
Great
you have
project.
the updated information,
Oh.
if you want to submit it electronically,
Sure.
rather than wait,
Yeah.
that way we have a meeting packet and it gets shared with the
That's
committee.
fine. Yep, will do. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great suggestions, thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Next. The Upton Street land acquisition. And I know Evan said he was not going to be able to be here tonight. What?
He's downstairs.
I can't.
He's downstairs.
I know, well, he's at another meeting, so I know he can't be here. I don't know if you want to speak to it. Colleen attended the meeting that
Yep.
the price was discussed?
Both the select board and the planning board have voted the select board voted their right of first refusal. The planning board voted in support of this after the fact. This has been an identified property on a list for a long time. It completes our Silver Lake Monopoly Board that we've been trying to do, so I think it makes sense. I don't know what else to really say besides we've been waiting to do this. We have the money to do this, and it makes sense to do this.
How much is it again?
$430,000.
I noticed on the application it said $431,000.
I saw that too, but I've only heard 430, so I don't know where that extra 1,000 is, but we can find out by August.
Yeah, okay.
I'm trying to
Right, so this is the third recent Robertson property. We're doing exactly the same thing on every one.
Yeah.
And we were fortunate that somebody made an offer for it. And so,
Was it you?
no, it wasn't me. I thought about it. And yes, the CPA does have enough money for this, and when we do the treasurer's report, we'll see that.
Okay.
Now, is the baseline
Yeah,
report?
we amended that. It's like, because there are 3 agenda items for the Robinson property, and they're all different ones, and so it got real confusing. So we amended it to make sure the baseline report is on there as well.
Should we do that one?
Do you want to speak to that briefly? Because it's kind of a repeat of what you have done in the past.
Okay, yeah.
I was prepared with an update too of all the other stuff that's been. done in the
Okay.
past. But did you want me to answer any questions? Like Justin had a question about the boardwalk a couple of minutes ago, or you good?
If you had information that you could answer,
Just briefly, you're talking about the one off of Wheeler Road?
That's what I was initially talking about, yes.
Yeah, so the reason that one's in a creek.
Okay.
The water flows along the trail.
Yep.
So a boardwalk would be in the water all the time. These guys were proposing a bridge over the creek, not in the creek. So that's why this one is more suitable to that.
Okay.
And that's why we had to go with like a gravel kind of solution.
Okay, perfect.
The other one, answers. And Colleen, did you want me to answer the question about the money?
Well, I mean, if you're gonna give them money, that's great, but I just wanna know if they'd approached you at all.
So I helped Ben fill out the application.
Okay,
So he hadn't done it before. So we talked about that. We're already doing we're sponsoring 3 other Eagle Scout projects. So
Tapped out.
as a line item, we're feeling like we're pulling our weight
Gotcha.
on Eagle Scouts right now. Maybe the second one, or no, the one across
Next
Miskell
year,
Brook.
next year, yeah.
So, okay, so sorry for the detour. I thought you guys.
we just always ask about extra funding sources, it's just like a standard question we ask
try to
everybody.
squeeze every nickel out of,
Yeah. No, the Scouts are actually good at fundraising,
right,
so that's been very
number
helpful
could
for
go
us.
down.
To Colleen's earlier point. So on the baseline report, did you want to see the slides? Everybody familiar
I
with the
don't-
baseline report?
Were you able to make that work?
Yes, slideshow?
Do you know?
If you make me able to share, I can also share it too.
Do you have it up already?
I
Instead of us?
I gotta load it, but I can get it up.
I have it on a stick if somebody needs it.
Hey, we're just thankful that the screen works tonight, that we get our stuff.
You guys told me I brought cables just in case.
I was prepared. You were a Boy Scout too, weren't you?
Cables and suspenders.
But I wasn't in Grafton when I grew up.
One thing I don't know is where the magic
I'm not,
side-by
If
is.
Justin's just pulling it up.
oh, it's working?
I believe Justin is able to share.
Oh, can you,
Share now? Nope, sharing is not turned
I
on.
can share it if you want.
it says it's not turned on.
I got it as well, but just as soon as I get sharing on
You
it.
gotta
do it.
be-
I can share it right now if you let me screen share.
No, I got it.
What's the opening bid?
There you go.
Justin
Here we go.
Here we go.
Awesome. So
Just tell me when to
Let's
switch
give
slides.
an overview of kind of this baseline report in the context of Silver Lake, as well as just the general idea of baseline reports. If you go to the next slide. Obviously, we're talking about the 2 blue ones, to Colleen's point about our Monopoly board. The tan color, this is Dave Robinson's famous
Yep.
picture that I nicked, I think, a couple years ago. It's good. The 10 was 2019. The green was, I think, closed last March, and we're talking about the blue now that you just talked about a minute ago. To use CPA funds, you have to have a permanent restriction on the property. And the permanent restriction in this case would be a conservation restriction, since it's not historic or any of the other categories of restrictions. And the CR application, I have one here, asks for the baseline documentation as part of that. And the baseline is basically a bunch of before pictures in case of after. So you can say, no, it wasn't like that. It used to be fine and now it's not. And so that's the purpose of the baseline in the context of the CR. So it's a little bit of a chicken and egg problem where the conservation restriction has prohibited uses and permitted uses are the interesting parts of the document. Everything else is a lot of legalese that's important, but the interesting parts are permitted and prohibited. And the baseline document also has that context to show how the permitted activities and prohibited activities start out on the baseline. So if they get worse, it can be objectively detected. So next slide. And so the fall 2022, the CR holder is responsible in perpetuity. And Article 8 was that Grafton Land Trust would hold the conservation restriction. And so holding it is the easy part. It's monitoring and enforcing violations is where the work comes in. You have to do it every year. It ends up being one of those long investments. Also, the application process takes months and months and months and months. I think the one from 2019 took 13 months to get through. And that staff is turned over through COVID remote stuff, and the new group of people there had a huge backlog. They've wound it down, and it's now resolved on the backlog. But they're still asking lots of questions because they're all new, I guess, in between. Do they want it to be amended to the old property or separate? It's been resolved that they want a separate CR application, a whole separate document, because the permitted and prohibited uses have been evolved over the past 5 years, in the town's favor, I'd say. So next slide. So the kinds of before conditions we want to document to prevent afters of neighbor encroachment or squatting. It's minimal on this property. There's only one abutter. It's just one house. But damage from cutting, digging, erosion, invasive species, and the elements of the prohibited uses. So if you go to the next slide, we actually have an example, unfortunately, on this project, that to do the perk test for the second set of lots, the contractor mistakenly cut down the trees. Those were trees before. Now there's a new path up the hill to go do the perk test pits. And they did them in the wrong place on town property. Monitoring caught this. There's Matt Offen right there monitoring. We caught this out, reported it, and I think between Leah and DPW, they decided to put boulders along there. We've done that in other properties too, is put boulders along the edge of the property to prevent vehicle access in the future.
Are there consequences, financial or legal consequences, if someone does that? And that's the town's responsibility to pursue it?
It's up to the town to pursue it. And in this case, because it was an honest mistake, I don't know that anything was done.
But not like to at least replant trees?
So that would be up to town council and maybe, Conservation Commission, who's the property owner, I think, to take that action. And
So when you
so
found this, that gets turned over to Concom?
Mhm.
Okay.
But I thought you'd like a concrete example of
Yes.
what you're buying.
Perfect example.
So next slide. I'll keep us moving because I'll talk all day long. So here's the pretty view. Thanks, Karen Eisenhower, for this cool picture. Ken, you were there that day, right?
Yeah.
So this is, the bridge would be behind us if we were going to put one, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And the beaver dam is in the.
Well, it used to be a ford, so you could walk across if you had, mud boots on, but now it's like up to your knees at the gravelly section. So there's a historic stone wall along there as well that's part of the property boundary. So next slide. So what we're doing in response to Article 8 of the 2022 town meeting warrant, applying and obtaining a conservation restriction, that's here, creating a baseline documentation report, we have the draft here, for the previous one, and so we want to do the same thing for this third blue section. So tonight we're applying for a baseline documentation report for the third section. And we've delivered 4 before, and we've got 1 in process. So I think that's the summary.
So that was 2,500. How much is the request for this one?
2.
It was for 2,000 because there's some economy of scale because they're next to each other. But we never asked for anything for the
Initial.
legal fees and stuff with the CR application, though.
Do we know when the 2022 baseline is going to be completed?
It's close.
So that's like, is that completed, or what's close mean? Is that like
Well,
6
there's-
weeks, 6
there's
months?
I think there's 8 more things on the punch list, waiting for an email response from Leah on the planned changes. Usually it's no, 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 and no. There's some mapping fill-in that we wanted to go back and redo on some of the boundaries because there's a stone wall there that wasn't fully documented, a few other things.
So the reason I ask is because on average, do these take 2 to 3 years? Because I would take that into consideration when we do the sunset. If we know it's gonna take more than 2 years, just give you a 3-year
So
right
they-
away.
When the property was already bought, you can't apply until you own it. The application says, show us the deed that you own this, that you can grant a CR, like.
And 22 had a deed issue, so that, did that slow up
Right,
the
so that didn't
baseline?
close until 2023.
Right.
And so we're a year and 4 months. I think the 2019 Robinson withdrawal, I'd have to go back and look, but I think it finally got signed by Sandy Brock, acknowledging the current conditions, in 2021. So it's probably a year and a half.
Okay.
So my understanding is that the sunset for this current baseline is July of next year,
June 30th.
June 30th next year,
Yeah.
so it'll be done.
And one,
No, it will, but I'm thinking about the one he's requesting. Do we want to, instead of a 2-year, give him a 3-year right off the bat, so we don't have to think about it
It's
for
gonna
3
be
years?
October, so it'll be 2.5 to begin with.
Okay,
But yeah, it could be. That would be fine.
just thinking about him, so he doesn't have to come
Good
back.
idea.
Yeah, that's right. That's the thing where, like John was saying earlier, put in the buffer so you don't have to come back.
Good idea.
and it takes a lot of heat off of, or a lot of scramble, last minute scrambling.
Right, right.
And So if it's preferable, we'll
Yeah,
do
no.
the 3-year.
Fingers crossed, we don't have a deed
Right,
problem
well,
again.
Right. We're just
It's an
buying
economy of
insurance.
scale.
We're hopefully buying free insurance, you
And
know,
it costs nothing.
right, for an extra year. That costs everybody nothing. It just gives everybody a little extra breathing room in case there are more hiccups with the red tape you have to go through.
Okay,
And it does look like the October, or the 2019 baseline conditions was signed by Sandy on December 2021. So it was,
here, I have it here, we can just look
it was
at
a
it.
little bit over 2 years.
Do you-
Yeah, but again, that deed thing was goofy, so,
It's not like she was waiting to sign it.
Oh, I know. I'm just reading what it was here.
Well, I mean, Leah has the report. I printed another 122-page copy of it. I can actually look it up. Do you really want the date?
No, I have it right here. I just said it, yeah.
That's off the top of my head. We have the real date in here.
Oh.
oh, Sandy, she's not even here and she's causing trouble.
You got it, like, what?
See here?
There really was meant to be a benign, helpful question, not a, let's go do our homework, yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
oh, okay.
I'm okay, if everybody else here is okay,
I think 3 years makes sense.
yeah.
So when we draft the warrant article for the next meeting, we'll make it a 3-year.
Okay.
It'll be a 3.5-year sunset.
Oh, wow, okay. And did you need me to change any of the wording or revise the application?
Any,
The only outstanding question is where the extra $1,000 came from. That, oh, that was not the, never mind.
That was the
other
other,
thing.
yeah.
that was,
Take
the
that
that
back.
was the price. That was the
Oh,
sticker
that was the
price.
purchase
I,
price.
I got myself confused, never mind.
That's something
We're
maybe
good.
the.
No, I want to know too.
TA's
Yeah, I'm gonna
office
look into
can
that now,
answer.
let you
Yeah.
know.
You're good.
My bet is a typo.
Or it
Yeah.
could be administrative costs. But I don't think it was mentioned anywhere.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're all set?
Appreciate your,
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
your help and all your
Right.
time getting these things taken care of. Okay, I think next on our list is the Unitarian Universalist Society of Grafton and Upton.
I almost didn't recognize you, Ted, with the clean shaven.
Well, hello, thanks. Thanks to the committee for inviting us here tonight. My name's Ted Beauvais. I'm chair of the capital campaign that's responsible for the fundraising for us to install this vertical platform lift. But we're looking to get some assistance from the town in funding that. With me is Suzanne Maas. She works as a grant writer and a development director, volunteer for our organization. And our minister, Reverend Daniel Gregoire, is here providing moral and spiritual support tonight. So we've been here before, and we want to thank you for the funds that we received in 2022 that allowed us to take this idea of getting from the first floor to the second floor through a vertical platform lift, which is essentially a light-duty elevator. We had funds from CPC that allowed us to do design work and to scope it out and plan it out. Whenever you're trying to do something in an old building that's involves structure, it gets complicated. You need to know what you're getting into as best you can. And so we accomplished that. And based on the results of that phase, we're now want to go forward and actually build this vertical platform lift, wheelchair lift, light-duty elevator, as you, whatever you choose to call it. Can we do the PowerPoint? We have a few slides with photos.
We're pulling it up right now.
And we just kind of, I think it'll help because you'll be able to see some of what we're proposing to do. And we have, Suzanne's going to talk later about the capital campaign and our fundraising efforts so far. And I'll kind of cover more about what it is we're wanting to do. So,
Before you start, I just have a real quick question. Have you talked to the Congregational Church at all? Is this going to be a similar type of lift
it'll
that
be
they have?
similar. I believe may involve some different technology, older technology,
Right,
and
'cause
this may
that's-
be hydraulic versus some other mechanism, but yes.
But it's pretty much a one-person
It's going to be suitable for a person in a wheelchair with an
and
attendant.
attendant.
So it's about 42 by 54-inch platform, which is sufficient space to get in with the wheelchair and an attendant if needed.
Wasn't it 700 pounds?
And 750 pounds capacity, so that's why it's a light-duty elevator. Next slide, please.
I don't think she
It's
has.
still loading, yeah.
Which one do you,
We go into slideshow, yeah.
yeah.
So that's who we are. We're
That's
gonna
us.
tell you what it is. So we're ready for the next one. So basically, like I said, it's slow too, is another thing. It's not a high-speed elevator. It's slow. It doesn't need to be fast. It operates inside a shaft or a shaftway. And it's going to go into the foyer, and we'll have some other photos to show that, but we have an accessible entrance as you're facing our church building on the left side closest to the townhouse. Back in 2022, we completed basically a sidewalk project. The sidewalk ends at a landing with a push button for a power door. That now gets you into the building. Previously, that was a 17-inch rise, so it was inaccessible, and we determined that was the best location to gain access to the building. Now, once you get inside, we're going to install that lift just right in that foyer area, and we'll get you from the first, get people from the first floor to the second floor. Okay. Yeah, so that's, you're looking at basically what I was just talking about. That's the new within the last couple of years, landing, sidewalk and landing that gets you in there. It's not technically a ramp because it's a lower % slope, so it's within the parameters of a sidewalk, but it provides that access. So next. And when you come in, you'd be facing the door on the right side of the slide is actually the door into the Reverend Daniel's office. That's going to be relocated. That's going to become a solid wall where you now see the door becomes a solid wall. His door moves around the corner to the right. And where those chairs and the table are and the print on the wall, all of that is going to become part of this shaftway within which the vertical lift will ascend. And obviously there'll be a hole through the ceiling. When you go up through the ceiling or the second floor or the ceiling for the first floor and make that rise, you come into an area where there's one of our regular entrances, and that blue rectangle there will be a door that will swing open, and the person who's in the lift will be able to exit immediately into the rear of the sanctuary, just kind of like everybody else does, which is the goal of accessibility, is to make it so that it's really treats people with dignity and brings them into the space efficiently. So that's basically what it's going to do. Next. These are just photos, standard photos of the types of devices. Ours won't necessarily look exactly like that, but it'll be similar. Inside, you'll see there's buttons and a railing. The person entering in will have like a power door that swings open. They enter in. Then they push and hold the button, and as long as they hold the button, the platform rises, and then they exit when they reach either the second floor from the first, or repeat or reverse that process. Next. just another example of a door going into a vertical platform lift. When ours will be a little more rectangular because it's intended to allow for the wheelchair and an attendant, and also at the first floor, the person will enter in kind of heading towards the townhouse building, and then they'll be making a 90-degree right, so when they exit, they'll exit into the rear of the church meeting house sanctuary. Next. And Suzanne, go ahead and you
Okay.
can talk more about the finances.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about the goals of the project, which we had two major goals, and the benefits. So the number one is what we've been talking about. We want to make the second floor accessible. And I've learned a lot more history about all of the architect who designed it, and he also designed Mechanics Hall.
Yeah.
And every single one of the churches, and even Mechanics Hall, everything was on the second floor. So a challenge for all of the organizations. So that's the major goal, but also at the same time, we have a vision of being, having the meeting house more used by the community and available for use by the community. So making this historic meeting house accessible provides that opportunity, because you need to be accessible for everybody to have access. So next. The community benefits, the types of things we do, obviously, we hold worship services, but we host programs that serve vulnerable, at-risk, and diverse populations. We share our space with another congregation, which is Beth Tikva Synagogue, and we work with other nonprofits in partnerships to get some things done. The next. So I just listed some of these. The community groups, AA has been meeting in our building for 59 years, Girl Scouts. There's a new moms group. It's a new group for new moms, is what it is, and the LGBTQ Asylum Task Force. In arts and humanities, in fact, we just hosted and created that Reading Frederick Douglass Together program, which we sometimes try to hold on the Common because it's free and open to the public, but weather this year on July 5th was that hot and steamy, stormy night, and we moved inside, and we can't go up into the sanctuary. It's public funds that we use to fund it, and so we were managed to fit 75 people in our very much smaller space downstairs. But Artist Way Creativity Workshop meets on Saturdays. We have concerts, book clubs, historic tours, which Daniel would know about, and other groups that meet there. Social justice activism, we, particularly this year, we're very active with a Haitian Refugee Support Initiative, but we address food security, discrimination, homelessness, voter education, and vigils for those who are oppressed. Next. So I think, is that the last
it'll
one?
come
Oh,
up,
no.
no.
Oh, it's like comes up in pieces.
Comes up
The
in
goal,
pieces.
that was Michael's. This was not my slide. Our goal, we set at 225,000, which actually was advised by David Nicholson at the Daniels Foundation as we approached the Daniels, and I want to make that connection. Thank you, John. At our very first meeting with you 2 years ago, you suggested other funding sources for us to look to, and we did. I'll just say right now, you suggested the Fund for Sacred Places, which we did apply to first because they want to be first and in the process, but we did not get a grant from them. I went to Brotherton Foundation, which was one I wasn't familiar with, but we gave that a shot, and that was not funded. And we did go to Daniels Foundation, which I'm not, I think a colleague of mine had suggested them, and you had suggested McAvoy also. So Daniels Foundation did fund us, and it's a pledge as part of everything else. So, and in that process, I think David was just a lot more experienced with the length of time this was going to take and the costs of what it was going to take. And he suggested, as you have, Justin, that we ask, be clear about this, what the amount might be.
Yes.
And go for that in our fundraising. And so that's, you'll see as we play out. We've raised $140,000, and so the balance is at 85 at this point. And so of that what we raised, 95,400 came from our members, which was incredibly wonderful. We've had some fundraising, smaller fundraising efforts, which raised 6,500. And then we received 38,100 from others in the community, the largest chunk of that being Daniels. But there were also individuals who have given, so, let's see, Unibank is in there,
Yeah.
and
Sure.
Yes.
Gary Sure Associates.
Gary Sure Associates. There are advisors, our financial advisors. So that's where the money and that connection of where we've gone for the money to look. We have one outstanding request, and that is McAvoy. I would talk to Tony Tilton. They encouraged us to ask just because they would normally be supportive, but they had just made a major grant to, I just blanked on the name of the clock museum, Willard House, and had used their commitment of funds for the year for that, but we'll see, something still might come in.
I didn't realize, I just saw there's a listing of the top 10 funders, and Worcester County and McAvoy has $40 million.
So we'll
They
see.
have a large
Yes,
endowment.
and David's has his hand in helping us, so. And the other thing, we're naming this in honor and memory of Joy Nicholson. She
Oh,
was a
nice.
member of the Congress, and she passed away in the midst of all this. And so that David's obviously
Mhm.
been connected to that and helpful. I can't even remember if there's another slide. Was that the last one? Thank you.
So we're willing to answer any questions you have. We've submitted our application, and so we can still amend it or change it if needed, but we've got that in front of you, so.
I have a quick question. During your presentation, you mentioned the Frederick Douglass reading and that you had to stay on the first floor because there was public funds. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Mass Humanities, our State Humanities Council. It's their program, and organizations, groups all over the state can apply for grants, which we did. And but it's federal funding coming through the state, and you have to provide accessibility.
Okay.
So we're at least able to get people in the building.
yeah.
A few years back, we weren't able to host
Right.
it at all because we had that 17-inch barrier.
Yeah.
Right.
But at least now we can get them in the
We lucked
building.
out on the first two times we did it on the Common. It was hot, but.
Did they actually, were you able to tape it?
Did
Were you able to record it?
No, we did not record it.
Because I had called it ahead of time because I was in Texas, and I was like so disappointed
Oh.
that I was gonna miss it because I was gonna be back the next day.
It was, as you might recall that week, it was in the 90s, and the humidity was very high, and there was that thunderstorms rolling through right about then. And we don't have air conditioning. And it really drew even more people this year. It was, and then they stayed for the discussion, and we actually thought being inside, I think people were more willing to stay than when we're on the Common and people sort of, you have other distractions,
wander
ice
off.
cream, things that you can wander off to. It was really, so we'll be doing it again. We'll apply to the Humanities Council again for that.
Good. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Just a comment,
Jack?
just how incredible the amount of fundraising is for this
Yes.
project. Just really outstanding, especially the member gifts. It's really impressive.
Yeah.
One other place, and I don't know if you've talked to them because I really don't think they have funds, but you never know, is the Blackstone Valley National Heritage Corridor.
In
John H.
fact-
Chafee, it's like this long.
In fact, Devin Kurtz, the executive director, was one of our readers.
Uh-huh.
He's actually a past colleague of mine. I will double check with him, but I
Because they
do not-
used to have funds, and I don't know that they really do anymore. But again, they may not have funds, but he may have names of people that
He or
do.
Dennis Rice might come up with some idea. Okay.
And they used to have funds.
Right,
I
but
also work
that's-
with the Blackstone River Watershed Association, and so I'm somewhat, and I know they're actually undertaking, Donna Williams and others from the Heritage Corridor, they're beginning an over $1 million capital campaign of their own.
Right, in fact, it's launched.
It's
Yeah,
it's
they
launched,
are.
yeah, recently, yeah.
Because when they moved from Woonsocket, I guess, to Whitensville, they totally reorganized and they lost a huge, because they changed the whole concept of
So
Right.
the whole
basically-
valley to just a couple of towns that were dramatically involved with the Industrial Revolution. So they lost a lot of money in staffing and grant funding ability.
So Devin Kurtz, the director, when we were chatting, he said basically his whole job has turned into, he does nothing but write grant proposals. So I'm not thinking he has
Right.
money for this
But we can-
purpose,
we
but
can ask him.
But he's,
He was a
that's just,
colleague,
he's
so I-
somebody that knows where money
yeah,
is, so.
I will ask.
You never know, because somebody stumbles on something that it may not apply to him,
Right.
but it could apply to you, or, you
They-
pass it along.
They also had a table there that night. They had, Devin brought the anti-slavery songbook from 1842 and had a family activity that you could, make a reproduction of that. And we sang some anti-slavery songs that night as well. It was a nice connection with the Heritage.
And there are
Foundation.
actually, I don't know if it's 7 private foundations in Grafton, that and I think Mr. Nicholson might be able to help you with some of those,
Right.
because
I haven't gone
I
to
couldn't
the
rattle
Ken
them
and
off the top of
Traeger
my
and
head,
Peg, although they were there that night. I filled them in on what we were doing while they were there.
and since it is a local thing,
Yeah, they might be
that
interested.
might pique a little more of their interest, but
I haven't figured out how to make a connection with Peter and,
Williams,
Shirley Williams, only other than they were on the board at Tower Hill
mhm.
while I worked there. So that was my only connection to ask. They haven't been connected to our church at all, but,
Mhm.
yeah,
But it's,
they're on my
all
list.
people can do is say no.
Right.
That's the one thing you learn. All they can do is say no.
So John,
Okay.
are we gonna send this application over to town council to review it, because it does involve a church?
I think because it involves a church, there's a test that, because of a case in Acton, that we'll need to go through that with the town council to make sure, and we did this with the 2 applications from the spring town meeting for the same reason, so, but that, just so you know, that's gonna be going on at the same time as your application.
And does that precede August, or is this
I'll
just running
send
around
that
at the same time?
tomorrow to Evan. I'll forward this to him and say, you made your presentation. This is the project, this is the total funding, project budget, this is the funding request. And, please, set up a meeting, and that's what we did the last time, that he and I met with, I think there were 2 town council, to ask questions and give us advice on how we should proceed. So that should happen before the next meeting without any problem.
Yep. Yeah, I was gonna bring that up as well, but I think from what I'm looking at, of course, I'm not a lawyer and the lawyers will tell us for sure, but it seems like this is a pretty clear, at least to me, approach that will pass that test. The community impacts that seem very, very obvious and very useful. I think, to me, this is a worthwhile project, and I'm also, just on a personal note, very happy to see a religious organization calling out LGBTQ support in their community impacts they want to provide. So that's a useful thing. Just always impressed to see that. So just want to call it out.
Yes, they're a welcoming congregation, which Daniel knows much more about that process
Yeah.
they went through before I even joined, but,
One of the things when you're talking to town council, John, is it's worth pointing out and talking with Ted within the last few weeks. He had mentioned, well, for one thing, we had talked about the Acton example, and that involved religious images. There was stained glass windows with religious images on it. This doesn't have anything like that. And he actually pointed out a really interesting thing is, unlike some other churches, UUSGUs, their sanctuary or meeting room does not have a lot of.
It's clean. That's the way it was set up.
And
when
that's part of the
churches were
reason why the
established.
synagogue is
No
there.
distractions, and we've messed it up along the way.
And that's why the synagogue likes going there,
They
because
do.
they don't have a lot of that. So, and that's worth noting, I think, to town council.
Because that's something I really, it's a beautiful sanctuary, but the fact that it has, and it's like you really do step back, because it's a reconstruction of the original building, several hundred years, because it was rebuilt pretty much as it was built originally. No stained glass, there's no imagery at all. And that's what it was supposed to be when you went.
By design.
You were focusing on God, not all this other stuff. And so it's really kind of a nice little escape to go and do that, because we've, in the last 100 years, changed the way churches look. And that this is, it can be anything. It's because it has,
Well, and to that point, we're also having, as we said, we want to do more concerts, but we have one planned coming up. It's another fundraiser for this purpose. Won't be a huge amount of money we earn, but it's Guy Fishman, who's a well-known cellist, plays with Handel Haydn Society, September 17th. You're welcome to join. But as a concert hall, we were thinking of, how many, it's almost 200, well, you know the exact count.
162 capacity.
He had us measure out. He had this. Our pews.
I think it's a great project. So,
Would you like us back in?
we'll send you an email, yes, because just in case, if somebody has another question or we find something out that
All right.
we need to
No
discuss.
suggestions at the moment to adjust anything yet. Okay.
In this budget, did you have any contingency? Does this include a
Yes,
contingency?
there's fairly generous contingency in there, partly we had an engineer, structural engineer, help with coming up with a cost estimate, but it's crazy out there trying to build things and working in an old building, and so we factored in a generous contingency, yes.
good idea.
Thank you, Ken.
When I skimmed the documents, it looked to be in excess of 20%.
It's more on the 30+%.
Yes.
And again, because you're dealing with the structure that you may not be able to do what you want to do, where you want to do it, and you have to move
Exactly.
something over, and by moving it 1 foot, it's going to cost you $25,000 more dollars.
Yep.
Or you're going to have to put in steel where there used to be wood beams, and
Can't wait.
until you open
Why don't you open
walls,
up
you
then?
don't know.
Okay.
That's true.
Thank you.
You
Thank you very much.
said that, I'm not gonna.
Is this
Good
going to
night.
access all levels of the building, or just go up?
This is.
First to the second floor, and there's no way to do all three.
So we went to the Massachusetts Architectural Access Board as part of the grant that we
Right.
received from you in 2022. And we received a variance from them.
Okay.
That says that we can do this, and we don't have to make the whole building accessible, just because it's impracticable.
Right, right.
In terms of cost and things. And we're gonna keep working at it.
Right.
But this is our next phase, is to get from the first to second floor.
Right, good. Okay. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Right.
I'll be remiss not to ask David Libby, are you here just as a visitor, or did you have questions?
I have a question.
Okay. Come on up, please have a seat.
David Libby, Baptist Church of Grafton. My interest is in the process that you have mentioned a couple of times, John, which is this notion of some sort of a clawback process for projects involving religious organizations,
Right.
I guess. And my question is there a timeline for that? Is
I've
there
finally heard
something-
back today from the lawyer, and we do have a draft. It's still a draft of the agreement. So I want to talk to Evan tomorrow to see what he says. So I said, we need to make a decision with or without the clawback. We need to get this agreement because they need to start, I'm sure we'll have bills that need to be paid. So we need to get all this in writing, signed, sealed, delivered, and be done with it. So I will call him tomorrow morning and get his comments from what the attorney said. For the most part, they liked our agreement, but I just want to make sure I'm clear with what they're saying, and so that we can then, we'll reach out to you tomorrow and let you know. I think that he did want to include that language in there, but it's highly unlikely that this will come to pass.
It's my understanding too that no funds can be clawed back once it's been spent. Is that correct? Fair to say?
That's my understanding, but I want to verify all of this, and I'm sure you want it all verified.
That's, pardon me, I think that's our focus, is understanding what
You don't want this
actions
sort of
might
Damocles hanging over you,
precipitate
right?
what responses and what risk we're exposed to, because
So basically,
we are going to get to the point in a matter of weeks where we start spending some
Real
serious
money,
money.
right, right.
Well, we've already committed to spending some serious money.
My understanding on when we met with the attorneys is that if somebody were to file a complaint or a lawsuit, that it would have been done before July 1st, or it needed to be done before July 1st, because that's when the money's available. But then once the money is released, then it's almost impossible, because the town, quite honestly, if they're not going to go after people that cut down trees, they're not going to go after you for this. If they're not going to go after the contractor for hundreds of thousands of dollars for the high school, for the front that they messed up, they're not going to go after it. But again, that's my reasoning. Somebody might say, I don't agree with you on that. But it's, again, I can't guarantee you, no good lawyer would guarantee you anything, because you just don't know. But it's the highly, and that's what they kept saying, highly unlikely, highly unlikely, highly unlikely. And it's more for our due diligence that we had to include that language in the unlikely event that it does. But then, even so, it's a matter of the town then deciding, do we then claw it back? Even if we have a right to, does that mean that do we have to? That's a choice that the town would make.
I might be wrong. I thought it was that if somebody else sued, that the town could claw the money back to protect it, that it comes back to CPC, not to the lawsuit.
Oh, I don't believe anybody other than this would just go back to CPC funds. This is not going to go to some complainant because we violated their civil rights for religious freedom or separation of church and state. I don't believe that has anything to do with this. This is strictly that they don't believe that this was an appropriate use of CPA funds, and that it would have to go back to whatever funding source that we had.
Well, hopefully you understand my dilemma.
Right.
We've just ordered, at the beginning of July, molding sections, which are going to cost thousands and thousands of dollars, and then we're going to be into construction with them, with money that's funded by money that's coming from CPA. And if we are faced with a risk of some magnitude that money might vanish, that's a serious problem.
Right.
And so my question really comes down to, how do we get to a point where there's some certainty here for us as the
I
recipient of
will
the
ask him
money?
when the window closes on that, so that at this point, you don't have to worry about it. That will be my main
We
question.
don't know yet.
That's what I'm gonna ask. I will ask him tomorrow, based on the feedback from the attorney that they sent today, when that window, if and when that window closes. So that, because this is causing a lot of distress,
Angst.
anxiety, angst.
Yes.
And it's very understandable and it's appreciated. And it's real easy for me to say not to worry about it, but I would, with caution, say you really don't have to worry. I think this is and that's what they said, this is a very, very slight chance. But I know you want 100%, and you go to the doctor and they're not going to give you 100% either. So a lawyer's not going to give you 100%. I don't know if we can give you 100% guarantee, but I will get the best answer I can for you tomorrow.
Submit those invoices, spend that money. Just hurry, hurry, hurry.
Spend it.
Right.
But I want to echo what he's saying. I believe personally that it's very low risk, but not no risk, but very low risk.
And I think, again, it falls back on whether the town chooses, if they say, yes, this was an inappropriate use of funds, and the town then the agreement would say the town has the right to. It doesn't say the town must or should or has to. There's a big difference.
It already passed this Helms test. We already ran that through town councils.
And I think the fact that it passed town meeting, I think this has community support. I think the fact that the lawyers were favorable in moving forward to allow it to go to town meeting are all in your favor.
Okay.
So say your prayers too.
It's not my strong suit, but,
Yep, we're working on it. Their answer.
so any definitive information that can.
I will
or
give you.
Even
I will give you the
non-definitive
information,
would be
whatever
appreciated.
information I get from Evan tomorrow, so that hopefully will give you a little more comfort. I mean, I don't feel like I'm giving you a whole lot of comfort.
Not yet. Much as I would like to.
Faith of
and
a mustard
appreciate,
seed. Have a faith of a mustard seed. This will, we will not
okay.
have any bumps in the road.
I will wait to hear from you.
Okay?
I think you're going to be okay.
Thank you. Yes, I think it's okay.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks for coming in.
And John, on that point, I would be interested in, what is, said officially. So to like have the letter from the lawyer,
Yep.
from that letter that you're sending or whatever, just sent for the next meeting, because I don't think sharing it right directly is gonna be good for OML, just in case. But having it in the in our
For the-
records for next meeting would be
Put
good.
the meeting packet for next month.
Yep.
Okay.
Because we're in an interesting situation here in Grafton where we have multiple religious buildings that are also very historical.
Right.
So
Right.
it would be good to have that on
Right.
record for us.
And I think this builds a case, though, for the state in terms of against Acton. You know, that these projects can be successful, are successful, and don't cross that line. And I think the fact, the application shows all the uses of the building, that it's not just for religious purposes. And I think especially yours is very different from the lift. Yours is just holding up the exterior of the building. Yours is so far away from that line. Because yours is exterior, yours is the common, you're part of the fabric and the character, the historic character of the common. And without that, if that thing fell off, the common would be very, very different place.
And from my seat on the Baptist church piece as well, it's like if the church no longer operated in that building would still be there. Somebody would be using it, and that facade could still be there in support of it. And that's
And religious buildings take on a non-religious aspect over time, and especially in New England, a lot of the religious symbolism and meaning of these buildings has been diluted to where now they are more community spaces, or they're just part of the common. It's part of what you look and you see all these old buildings surrounding the common. They're community buildings, they're public spaces, and you don't see it as this is a church and this is a religious space. You see it as a building. I think it reads that way to a lot more people now than it ever did. So I think it's part of us restoring everything around the common and the approaches to the common,
I'm not there anymore.
the tree barn.
Before it was gone, it was a karate school.
So, thank you.
Because there's a karate, did that.
Okay,
That one was in North Grafton.
we'll go back to the agenda. Ken, you want to do the treasurer's report?
Okay. Can I share the treasurer's report? There it is. Maybe I can make it bigger.
Blurry.
Nope, can't make it bigger.
You can read, it's just blurry.
Okay, so the treasurer's report is similar to the last one that we saw. The difference is that the four projects that we've just discussed are slotted in to the light blue area. So you can see in the revenues, the the fiscal year revenue section, I put in the Hessemet Wood Bridges at the 10,123 amount that they had before. It looks like that's going to go up maybe $3,000 to $5,000,
Yep.
which is fine. The UUSGU Phase 3 Universal Lift-Up Project is $85,000, and that doesn't quite use up the budgeted reserve from this year. Now, from the undesignated fund, I slotted in a portion of the Robinson's 61B purchase, $61,000, and that amount was chosen because the rest of it was slotted into the open space reserve. Now, you know that we've kind of been accumulating money in the open space reserve. Oh, let's go back up. We had $273,000 in that reserve, and we're going to use $270,000 of that to fund the purchase to complement the $160,000 from the undesignated fund, and also the $2,000 for the baseline report.
That pretty much wipes out the
Pardon?
reserve. That wipes out the reserve.
Yes, that pretty much flushes out the reserve. That takes the reserve down to about $1,000. And so the open
Unless they
space
take it from
reserve
you.
is now, all the reserves are pretty empty. You can see at the bottom, there's one reserve is, the open space has got 1,200, the historic reserve has got 2,150, and in May, we zeroed out the affordable housing reserve by transferring it to them. And so, just moving down, this is a summary. We carried over about $730,000 from last fiscal year. We added revenue of about somewhat over $700,000. So we started this year with almost $15.5 million in funds available to be used. We paid bonds, and we've granted with these grants, we'll have granted just over $1 million. And that will leave us with, at the end of the year, with a little over $250,000
So
unused.
250 for Maytown meeting projects.
Right, now in Maytown meeting, we're going to get 2026 revenue, which is going to be somewhat in excess of $750,000. And so at Maytown meeting, we'll have $1 million to work with. Plenty.
It's making me think about a policy we should write.
Right, so it'll be a little bit less than we started this year with, but it's still plenty to work with.
Any questions, comments?
Should we consider a policy around bond payments so that we don't exceed a certain percentage, so we're never caught in a situation where we don't have enough money to make a bond payment? I'm not saying that's happening now or even in the near future, but something to consider down the line.
We've been working under the informal guideline that we would always, if we would never incur bond payments that were more than half the amount of money that we have, and we're way below that.
Oh, yeah, and I love that it's informal, but, someday you might not be here to remind everybody, so to codify that in a policy, I think would be, I'm not saying like next
We could do
week,
that.
but.
We could pick a number, but conveniently, we're way below that now.
Correct,
And one of
yeah.
our bonds is about to get paid
Because
off.
we have talked about this a lot
Right.
in the past as we had our first bond and then we had our next bond.
Oh, yeah.
And so we kept, because we were concerned, how much are we eating up? Is there going to be any money left for anything else?
Right.
So we really have had a lot of discussion about this.
Based on that rule, I have a spreadsheet which makes that calculation.
Right.
And shows us basically what's our, based on that rule, what's our current new bond capacity. And, for a decade, we've had, we could have, done another $1.5 million bond and still be well within that rule.
But can we write that rule down, is all I'm asking.
We could, yeah, we could
Do I,
write that rule down.
do I hear a motion?
Oh, okay, yeah,
Or do you
so,
want to have more of a discussion? I mean,
oh, yeah, I'm not saying this needs to be now or
I'm not
even by
saying today, but I'm
October,
just
yeah.
saying, if we want to get this ball rolling.
Yeah, I mean, we're wrapping one
talking about
policy
it
up
now.
tonight, so I gotta get busy again. So that's what I'm getting at.
Does
No, but I
anyone-
think it's truly important to have some of this stuff written down, because Ken isn't gonna be here forever, and none of us are. And I think for future CPCs, having some of this guidance written down will be important.
Anybody have any additional comments about that?
I concur.
Okay, so do you want to, are you
I'm-
volunteering?
Obviously, yes, I will take care of
Would you
it.
like to draft the policy and
I'll work with you.
with
Yeah,
Ken
absolutely.
With the words.
Yeah,
on the
100%.
language in terms of, I think, in our, which I think is what Ken is saying is, up to this time, that we have made great strides to keep our bonding capacity, our usage below 50% of our available funding.
Yeah, you guys have an unofficial
Should not
policy.
exceed-
Let's
Below
just make it official.
50% of
Yeah.
our annual new annual funding.
Right.
And that's right now, that would be 300, let's say, even $350,000, and the bond payment is 130. So we're well below that.
Yeah, 100%.
I move we accept the treasurer's report.
Second.
Have a motion and a second? All those in favor?
Roll call.
Scarlett,
Back to
aye.
my list. Sorry, wait. Paul,
Scarlett, aye.
Craig, Justin,
Aye.
Ken,
Aye.
Colleen.
Aye.
Jack.
Aye.
Kristen.
Aye.
Great. Motion carried unanimously, so,
Kristen, you having fun?
in the box.
I think that was a thumb up.
The draft sunset. Do we want to have any further discussion, or do we want to vote?
I actually carefully read it again, and I had a suggestion of clarifying the end of the first paragraph. You can pass these down.
Okay.
It'd be good to see the
I
wording
think
again,
it
because
was-
I've got like 4
I had
different
to read it a bunch of
versions.
times,
I
and
had
it
to-
took me a while to parse out what it was intended to say, and I thought that it could be said simpler. And so I'm suggesting a few different words to make it simpler. What you see here is in the first purpose paragraph is the original plus the edits, and the second purpose is just the edits installed with the changes highlighted. So if you want to cut to the chase, you can just read the second paragraph.
So you're suggesting that we replace paragraph 1 purpose with paragraph 2 purpose?
Yes.
Okay.
Wait, so the policy that was most recently sent out, did you get this?
I did, in fact,
Ken, can you
that
stop
is
sharing?
I edited this paragraph. And so, like, I changed the word,
There you go.
I just sort of added to ensure that unspent and unencumbered funds are returned.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that it was, instead of agreed sunset, I said specified. But then I broke the sentence up into 2, where it talks about saying that the purpose is to ensure that unencumbered funds are returned once the date is reached. But then I stopped the sentence and started, I mentioned the sunset date may be extended. If the project is not complete, but it's reasonably anticipated that with an extension it would be complete.
So this, the second, that's the version you prefer, is this set with the highlights on it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, all right. So I'll make a motion to accept the sunset policy with Ken's edits as presented.
I have a motion and a second to accept the
And I'll go add these
Proposed
and then send it
new
right out, because I
purpose?
have that, yeah.
submitted by Ken, along with the policy that was agreed upon below. Let me get my list.
Give me a second, I
Sorry.
can type this up so Christy can see it too.
Any questions, comments?
Oh, sorry, Kristen. It's hard for her to see
Yeah.
that.
That's why I'm typing this. Do, do, do. And
So am I waiting?
I would
Sorry, I can't
suggest-
hear.
Yeah,
would
so
suggest
he
waiting.
just wants to make sure Chris, because she can't see this.
Oh,
So he's just trying to give her a second, so
okay,
we're giving him
okay.
a second.
Gotcha. Sorry. I got cotton balls in my ears.
Just a question as an aside, did we decide that we are just doing, moving forward for the most part, just a, not a 2/3 majority, but just a simple majority?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
But the policy covers all the ones we
Yeah, I
passed.
saw that, which is
The policy
good.
covers
I just didn't know what we had
Yeah,
settled on.
it's gonna be a majority going forward, but we've done it a bunch of different
We're
ways.
all over the map until
Any
they
that
cycle out.
were 2/3 in the past will still be 2/3
Right.
going forward.
And any that were town meetings still need town meeting, but those are pretty much cycled out.
Yeah.
That's complicated, but very clear.
Yeah, oh yeah, super clear.
There we go.
Okay, Kristen, can you see the shared screen?
Yes, thank you.
So once you've had a chance, let us know and we will vote. Thank you.
No problem.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to substitute purpose 2 for purpose 1. Starting with Paul,
Aye.
Craig,
Aye.
Justin,
Aye.
Ken,
Aye.
Colleen,
Aye.
Jack,
Aye.
Kristen.
Aye.
I declare the motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much. There was a lot of hard work by a lot of people on this, and I think it was worth the effort.
Definitely. Great to have it in writing.
And so your reward is,
A new policy.
I am gonna buy you a policy book for Christmas. So
Oh,
you
thank
know
you.
that's a surprise that you're not. Gulp, letters and everything. Okay. So we've done our, I need to look at the time. Project applications, project updates. Kenny gave us an update on the archival project. I have been ill this month, so have not gotten anything done. So gravestones, I will do my best this next month to try to make an appointment and get the consultants out. Grafton Common Restoration.
So, I thought we were all done, but we got a additional, invoice that, I had thought we had closed out the account, but I'm not 100% sure if that was
I don't
done.
think it's technically closed out till Ken and
So,
I say it's closed out.
Well, we extended the sunset too.
oh yeah, I'm not
But
concerned
we
with that.
wanted to
Just-
close it out,
Yeah.
to get the money back. Is the goal.
So we have about 52,000 left, minus, we have one invoice for just under 158,000. So we'll have to get that resolved, and then the plan is to close out the account, and that money will go back to CPC coffers.
Say what the outstanding,
It was roughly 52,000, but it's gonna be a little bit.
no, but what was the outstanding invoice you said?
It's $157.95.
And is that the Koopmans?
That's from Koopmans. That was what Parks and Cemeteries had to buy some materials to
Right,
repair
okay.
the fencing.
Because I thought that all got paid, and he did say
Well,
that they would do a journal
he
entry.
originally said there were 2 invoices. We paid those, and we told him we were all done, and then he submitted this third, and we asked him if
But
they
if-
could pay it themselves, but they submitted it anyway, so.
If they can do a journal entry, if we can get them to have it funded through.
I'll reach out to
Highway.
Jared, and I'll
And
copy
then,
you tomorrow.
if worst comes to worst, to me, if we can close this out and then get our money back,
That'll-
For funding for
that'll-
us.
That'll raise the funding availability to $300,000.
that,
Yeah.
that I would propose, because we've done this for other issues, that for such a small amount of money, to have those outstanding bills, if they indeed are ours and we need to pay them, just come out of our administrative budget for this fiscal year, so that we can close out that account and be done with it.
Yeah, so I'll reach out to you tomorrow with the exact amount.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to make a comment about the Grafton Common project. It's beautiful. And I think that the team that built it did a fantastic job. And I think it's a really strong asset for the town. Thank you.
I think Paul deserves a huge congratulations and thanks, because it's been a long haul. And I think I said to John Morgan, who was the former chairman of the district commission, I said, thank you, if it hadn't been for you, this wouldn't have got started. And it's taken us a decade,
Literally
literally
10
a
years.
decade, from the beginning planning to all the iterations, and then the problems with COVID and the problems with everything else along the way, that, like all these other things, it is certainly well worth the money that we've spent. And I think I have heard nothing but excellent rave comments.
$651,000 well spent,
For sure.
or 650.
Right around 600, right? It was a team effort. The Historic District Commission, all the members participated, particularly in the end when we
Right,
were scrambling to
everybody was
finish
pitching
things up
in.
and getting all the signage done. and
Paul
all,
was
so-
there the whole way and making sure the bills were paid and staying on top of the contractors and going back to town for the selectmen to change orders every month, it seems like. So, it's like a lot of things. It takes a lot of effort, and it definitely shows. And I think this is something that the community is very proud of, and I think that we're going to enjoy this for a long, long time.
And we like the townhouse too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I went to one of the design meetings when you guys were talking about the bandstand gazebo thing.
Bandstand.
Whatever, the bandstand. And it was mentioned that painting the roof blue will help keep bees out. And we had a bee problem at my house, and I had my husband do it immediately, and we haven't had a bee problem
Really?
since. I had never heard that before, and I learned it coming to one of the meetings.
Painted the inside blue.
Yeah, the inside of the ceiling there.
Does that work for wasps?
Ooh, that we had like the carpenter bees. They were going right in, and they haven't come back.
Yeah, they
So-
think it's sky, so they
Yeah,
do.
it looks
Yeah.
like the sky, so they it confuses them. So, anything, hey,
It's worth coming to these meetings. You just
You
never
never know
know
what you're
what
gonna
you're
learn.
gonna
Go.
Okay, 95 North Street, Evan had another meeting tonight and he had not been able to work with Leah and Adam. Unfortunately, Adam, I don't know why he came. We didn't, unless he thought from the previous meeting that we were just going to postpone it to this meeting. So I feel bad that he came, but they aren't at a point to where they have a revised plan, and that my hope was they were gonna have a revised plan so that it could go on the warrant for October, and if they can pull a rabbit out of the hat and have a warrant article ready for the next meeting that's good numbers, and I would suggest that we accept that, if indeed they have that, but I don't know that they're even that far along with trying to get revisions in the
Would
project.
it be a big one?
A couple $100,000, I think, to keep the project as designed.
Kristen has her hand raised.
Well, you
Oh,
can see-
Kristen knows.
You can see that we only have 250.
No, my question, I've been out of town for a while, and the last time I talked to Adam, it was my understanding that Leah was putting together like a presentation for the committee so that we can all get up to speed on where they stand and what they need and what the scope is compared to what we originally approved. So, John, have you heard, like, do they intend to come to our next meeting to give us that
Well,
update?
The hope was
Or-
this meeting, but there were, I don't know what, there were other conflicts, and then Evan couldn't even be at this meeting tonight to at least have his input, because I think he's working with both Adam and Leah. So I said, that's not a problem, but can we count on August? So let's plan on August 22nd, so.
All right, thank you.
What?
One thought, John, and probably for Ken too.
I don't know what that is.
No. Slip at a town meeting.
One,
I'm just suggesting to slip it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, sorry.
yeah, one,
Justin.
one thought I have, we only have, like Ken just said, the 250 right now, but this 95 North Street has already been approved for the initial plan at
Right.
a fairly large amount anyway. If the dollars are similar, it might be, I don't know if this is true, but it might be possible to do a warrant article that reauthorizes the previous dollar amount with the new scope.
Okay.
That might be something that we could do instead.
Yeah.
That
Okay, that's a good
That would
suggestion.
keep the,
Yeah,
keep the
great.
money that's already allocated, but say, but we're bringing it back to town meeting because the scope has changed so drastically that we're just making sure the town is still okay with this spend at the new money. If they say no, they say no. That's probably worth a chat with Evan and or council just to verify that that's something we can do. I think it would be, but I don't know for sure.
I love the idea, but I definitely want to hear the update first before we come up with a
Oh,
solution.
absolutely. 100% update first.
Yeah, yeah.
But it'd be good to know that answer ahead of the meeting, just in case that's an option we want to pursue.
Okay, well, probably have an all-day conference with Evan tomorrow. It sounds like.
He's got some room in his calendar.
Okay, so we're still kind of not sure where that stands, and we'll definitely have a meeting with Evan and Leah and Adam at the next meeting with either a new proposal or a proposal that new proposal for funding or a proposal to reduce the scope for the same amount of funding that would go at town meeting in October.
That would be,
So, but most likely, we're unable to provide new dollars at this point until May
right.
2025.
And there is one other thing in my own mind is, and I don't think that's the best idea, but I was gonna say we could always draft a warrant article that says funds available July 1st next year, but again, I don't know that that's the best idea where we don't have the,
Well, we'll see what they come up
yeah.
with.
I don't want to I don't want a pre-solution, this all,
Getting a lot of hypotheticals, and
yeah.
we really need to get some hard facts before we start going
That's why I
down
was kind of backing myself
down the
up.
rabbit hole. And I think we all want it done, but we need to be careful in how we get it done.
Yeah.
Grafton Housing Authority, any updates on those funds?
The only update I really have is, Governor Healy signed a large appropriation of funds, and we only got a couple of figures, like Worcester is getting 7 million, but the scope of what those funds could be used for was kind of all over the place. So we don't know how much we're getting and what we can use it on. The only thing we know is the state has been very clear. They don't feel that we have the ability to build any more housing, or what I should say is they are not allowing us to spend any money thinking about or building any additional housing. So they've just given us all this money. We don't know how much. We know an estimate, but we don't know what we can and can't do with it. So that's kind of where our attention is shifted for now.
Is that something that either David Meridian or Mike Moore can provide some guidance on?
I have already reached out, and it's somewhat good that I got the same answer from our executive director and them, which is the problem has been identified, the housing problem has been identified. The state doesn't want to leave low income behind when we look for affordable. So we've written this appropriations bill to get the money there, but we haven't really come up with the ideas yet. We just want the money to be there. So
you may have to wait to find out how you can spend it.
right now it is a wait and see because the money won't be appropriated until next fiscal year.
Okay.
So we know that this is coming. We don't know what to do with it yet. So
Can you advocate for what to do with it? Because didn't you guys identify a need of updating a lot of units? Could it be used towards that?
the funny thing about that is they changed some rules. We used to have it so if you spent more than 10,000, it had to go out to bid, which makes it very difficult to kind of do these overhauls on units that have been rented out for years and years and years. They need to be completely done. We have two that are like, we aren't even allowed to go and see how bad the damage is because it's terrible. And they're family units that have been rented for decades. So we had a point where we had like nearly 20 vacancies. We get dinged for every vacancy. And it was just, we had a very below average number of turnover during COVID. So we kind of built this reserve up. And then we had a way over average, and it kind of ended up leveling out, but it had us going down so much. It was very extraordinary. But they changed the number to bid from 10,000 to 20,000. And even though we're something Jim used to always say that we were 4 units short of another full-time maintenance person. So think of how far our maintenance guys are stretched, where 4 more units and we would have a 3rd person. So they allowed us to bring on a contractor to help work, and in just those 2 things, our executive director had us go from 20 vacancies to 2.
Nice.
So we could have if we had already gotten that money, it could have gone to this, but because of those changes, our director just took it and ran, and now we're in a much better spot. But, yeah, we still, you know, it's great to have these funds in this program. The one hurdle we need is just to get that meeting with the lawyer and get it in writing, and every time it feels like it's right there, it's like, here's this massive thing that's come in front of it. So we have our next meeting in August. So then I will get a firm
Better
answer.
idea. Good, okay. Thank you. We discussed Robinson Baseline. The library cupola project, I think I handed out a spreadsheet. Even though they have a new library director, William and Evan are still keeping, owning this project instead of handing it off to the new director. He said there were some issues. They thought the completion was going to be September, and it looks more like it's going to be October before the work's going to be done. They've had a couple of change orders, and it shows the first page shows a total balance of $177,000, and the expenses, or funding sources rather, on the second page of $300,000. So they have a balance of cash to pay for the project, $124,000. So
We could get all the money back
it just depends.
if we're the last source to be
It just
spent,
depends.
right?
Yep.
And
Would that be the first time ever that that's happened? All the money came back and
All
the project
money
got
came
done?
back. Yes, well, don't count those chickens before they're hatched.
is, who's acting on behalf
We've already
of
had
the-
2 change orders, so, I mean, that's with an old building, and I think, he said that one of the problems is they're trying to, the trim that they're doing of the work, it's taking longer to get that work to come back. So that's why, because every time I drive by, you see the scaffolding, but I never see any construction work. So I think a lot of this is now being done off-site to do the mill work and the things that they need to replicate, to put back on. So-
Yeah.
So
I just said
fingers
that, John.
crossed.
I literally just said that. Never seen it. I walk by it every day.
Yeah, I've never seen I mean, I didn't see the scaffolding go up. I didn't mean, but it's like,
If money comes
see
back,
one
and
person
they
up
don't
there
use
a
any
long time.
CPA
I think
money,
a
do they
a
get a
lot of this
plaque?
is because they're having to do it off-site.
Yep.
So,
Who from the town is project managing this right now? Is that
it's
the
it's
library
William.
director?
No,
Oh,
no,
William
the
Lake
library,
still?
they just hired a new library director about a month ago, and I believe, I honestly don't know his name, but that Evan and mostly William,
Okay.
they're both kind of managing it, but William, I think it's because he's the one that I said, can you provide me fund numbers? And he sent me this today, so to show the remaining balance, so that there's still funds which I'm sure will get spent, as the project comes to conclusion. As most projects do, that's when the bills come in. Cisco Homestead, any updates?
I still owe Ray,
Other
the other Ray, an email to reintroduce that, saying that I'm in charge of this, that I just haven't had a chance this past month or so, since I've been sick for some of that time. But yeah, I owe her an email, and the only comment is, I guess you've noticed it, John, the community advocate article that got posted
Very nice article in Community
just a
Advocate
few days
today.
ago, but in
I saw it.
the community advocate about the Cisco Homestead and the work that's being done to renovate it, and they actually called out the community, our CPA, community preservation, as helping make that
I
happen.
scrolled down till I found it. So I was very appreciative that they gave us credit, that Ray
Yeah.
did the right thing and acknowledged our financial support. Although we're not the only one that's supporting them, but we have supported them the whole project.
And while I'm on this topic too, the thing that I also got an email this week about is the CMRPC, someone from there is doing some stuff in Worcester County in particular. They were asking about the nitbucks and stuff that the town has done to, support them and that kind of thing. and to see if I can give them information, if there's any contacts both in the town that would have more information or with the Nipmuc, the Nipmuc organization that I could pass along to please do so. I'll probably ask Ray Gould for permission to pass her email along because I don't like to assume that I can just do that, but.
She would have the bottom line answer for that, but I
Yes.
would say the only funds that the town has spent have been CPA funds.
Yep. But yeah, so I got that email. I don't know where the person found me from necessarily from CMRPC to ask, but if they
And I'm
emailed other people.
Ray's
but
very
Yeah.
easy, so I'm sure she'd be happy to talk to them.
that's what I would assume, but yeah, again.
Okay. Any update on the Congregational Church?
I haven't heard from them in about a month. I did have some dialogue with them the end of last month, just talking about procedural stuff. And they did ask about the paint color, their plan. I confirmed that their plan is to paint it the same color
Same.
that it is.
Okay.
And told them we were fine with that, so.
Okay. And then we did get a little bit of Baptist, if you want to give us any additional that you have. on
Just that
Baptist
the
Church.
moldings were definitely ordered. They're hopefully going to get in by Labor Day. And that discussion we had previously about the number of moldings, it's all set. They're going to order the total number they had requested because it's just a normal part of construction. And that's it.
Okay. Old new business, Affordable Housing Trust, do you have any?
I do.
Actually, Colleen is now a member of the Affordable Housing Trust, and not only is she a member, she's the treasurer,
And the vice chair. I
And the
get
vice chair.
hats.
Two titles.
Yep.
and she gets double salary.
Yeah, exactly. So the
From nothing leaves you to nothing.
The treasurer submitted the end of the year request to CPC. Ken and I are going on that a little bit further. I think you have enough to do the CP3 report, or?
I'm not sure. Mary Loria does that report. and so-
Oh, I apologize. Okay.
Yeah, I don't actually do it. I look at it. but
Mary doesn't do
Mary
the
does it.
report.
Who-
Mary doesn't,
Who doesn't?
Beth and I.
Oh, you guys
the-
do it?
yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Do you have enough information to fill out that report?
And Colleen and I talked, and she said that the funds that were dispersed for fiscal year 2024 that just ended were zero,
Correct.
and they spent zero.
Correct.
So I said that makes our report very easy for Affordable Housing Trust transfer, so.
But there's a bigger picture that we're trying to capture that Ken and I are going to work towards that's beyond what CPC needs to have, but just good data,
Right.
because we like data.
Just big picture, and I think that's helpful for all of us, especially as projects come along, so we can see how much has been invested, how much we've invested, how much is needed to be invested.
Yeah, we found some nice reporting that the town of Hanover does.
Yeah.
And we're gonna hopefully try to do something like what they do.
They do. Okay.
Yeah,
So you two, we'll let you two play with those numbers, since we know you both love numbers.
that's right. 25 Worcester Street, the Worcester Community Housing Resource came in and reviewed the extensive review process that that project's gonna go under, including environmental and noise reviews. Because they're using HUD money, so it's just a really extensive review process. And the initial request to the state on that project is slated for Q1 of 2025. So that's just, it's in the works, but it's gonna be a long haul.
Refresh our memory, what's the gist of that project?
That's the project where the town gifted the property to the Affordable Housing Trust, and it's got a deed restriction of like a 55+ on that.
Okay.
And that's the gist of that project, and that they're working with the Worcester Community Housing Resource to help move that project along.
And you said February 1st, 2025 is,
Sometime in Q1 2025 is when they're gonna do an initial request to the state.
okay, to ask to seek funds to do construction.
For HUD, yeah, and
Okay.
apparently, usually first round requests are denied, and then you gotta wait another maybe 6 to 12 months to apply again. I guess they just habitually like to say no at first, and then you make your tweaks, and,
Right.
so it does seem like it's gonna be a long timeline, but it is trekking along, so the updates on that might not be, super glamorous for a while.
So will their application include designs for what the project will look like, how many units there will be, or does that come at a later date?
I the review process is so extensive that it could include some of that stuff, but I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, this conversation went on for like an hour.
Because I just know that neighborhood is really interested in what it's gonna look like.
Oh, for sure.
So I think we need to be real sensitive on making sure whatever, if there are community forums or meetings or public hearings, so that those people have an opportunity to say, because I know what, and I'll say it again, and I say it every time, I want it to look like the old Grafton High School. Make whatever auxiliary buildings you want, but I want the big building to look like the old high school.
Well, yeah, any public input or any of those sessions, as soon as I have dates, I'll push them
Yeah.
out through here, because the more resources
Yeah.
that are pushing those, that's good for people. And then 17 and 27 Upton Street, John Grant from GSX actually came to our last meeting and discussed sending over the most recent pursuit budget for that project. We didn't have a copy of that. He thought we did. The one we had wasn't the most recent, so. The trust voted to pay the 13th draw request on that affordable housing grant. So far, it's paid out close to $700,000 of the $1.8 million grant to increase the number of affordable units in that project. And that is your Affordable Housing Trust update.
Okay.
I'll,
A lot of information. Any questions,
I made it.
comments?
the only thing I think is worth calling out is that
Through it with
because we talked about
Mary.
1727 Upton,
I don't have
the planning board
answers.
meeting this past week, that was also going to be involved with that,
But is this
had to cancel that,
looking for?
This is one of.
that particular topic because of the turnout was higher than the fire code allowed. So the follow-up meeting is going to be this Monday for that. We are going to meet downstairs in room A again, but we did book this room as a,
Satellite.
you know, as a satellite room if we have the participation that would allow, you know, that would require it.
So
And there
people
is
watch
going to
it.
be the ability for Zoom and people to talk to the planning board if there's any comments or questions and to hear the whole meeting. So that will be going on Monday. And
Liabilities, yeah.
figured that was worth calling out today since that was a topic.
That's a good thing.
That's kind
We'll have room for like 96 people, because I think that has the same occupancy down
Yes.
there as it has
And
here.
then on this one,
Now, if we are
the revenue.
over the total occupancy of both rooms, then we have a problem.
Yeah, if you've got 100, you're over.
The site.
Yeah, and so other would be.
We'll figure it out.
The other sources of, you know,
Haven't done anything on the project signs.
Okay, so I'm heading in the
And
right
then
direction.
the next item that I know you two want to
balance sheet.
chime in on, the public hearing that we normally do in May,
So the-
planning to do September 26th,
And
Ken? And as long as that's agreeable with everyone, I think we'll have all of our town meeting behind us, so we'll have plenty of time to do that. Did you hear what I said?
Public hearing in September, and then
September
something
26th.
after
So
to do
that-
with Stewart. Training.
Oh, right, and then, I will contact Stuart Saginaw, about trying to do a training with not just Grafton, but several communities, so that he would come here and do training rather than just saying, oh, watch the video, like he did before he came and talked to us. But we have a lot of new members, and I think I would like a refresher as well. I think that it would be helpful for us to have that, you know, within the next 6 to 9 months, if, you know, we can fit it in his calendar and our calendar, that, and to be a host community so that we can bring people to Grafton and show off and brag about what all we've done with CPA.
Last time, we only had one community come join us, and I think we invited a few others at the time,
Yeah.
but either way.
But I think that
Make it
would,
happen.
you know, that, we want to make it, he needs to make it worth his while to come out here
Yeah.
to drive out. And so it would be nice if we could have a large participation by the community. So
Agreed.
as much lead time as we have on that, I think that the better opportunity we'll have to draw other towns. Any other items, questions?
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Looks like
8:59.
8:59. I have a second by Paul Scarlett, and we are going to vote. You don't have to remind me. By roll call, but I got to find my list. Paul. Craig. Justin.
Aye.
Ken.
Aye.
Colleen.
Aye.
Jack.
Yes.
Kristen.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much.